And when I think about recipes to bring, I always think of things that I try and make sure that they're not really complicated and long to make, because all of us have busy lives, but also something hearty and kind of in the comfort food category, and most importantly, that's whole food, plant-based. And the longer that Tim and I have worked with this kind of food, the more excited I've been about it. It's really been rewarding to try and say, how can I take simple whole foods and try and work towards food that's really delicious and it's going to, boost up my immune system and just make me feel good. So I am so delighted that you're all here to learn, and I'll look forward to sharing this recipe with you. So when you make this recipe, it's really easy. What I always do is I just chop my vegetables. So this is 1 red pepper. And here's a cup of chopped onions. And, I don't think you have to get exercised about precise amounts. If you have a lovely large onion and you want to use it all, use it all. And here.
And they come from the store all chopped like this, right?
No. And similarly, if you have some celery that's absolutely beautiful and you'd like to use more, that's fine too. These are general recommendations as far as amounts. And here's the chopped walnuts. Do you all have this recipe?
No, I don't think. No, there wasn't.
Well, I have one here, but you can't have it.
Okay, so you have all your vegetables here, and then
If you need a recipe, raise your hand.
so when I cook brown rice, everyone has their own method for cooking rice, but I'll just tell you mine. I was looking online and I said, okay, let me try and see what a variety of cooks say about using, cooking brown rice. And some people said, well, you just use 1.25 cups of water to 1 cup of dry rice. I wouldn't have the confidence to do that. So what I always do is just 2 cups of water to 1 cup of rice, and then I'll just bring it right to a boil. Then put the lid on and turn it right down to a really low simmer, and leave it for an hour, and then let it sit for a while, and then fluff it with a fork. That seems to work really well. So this is brown jasmine rice, but you can use any brown rice.
You have to soak it the night before.
I beg your pardon?
You have to soak it the night before.
I don't.
If you're worried about arsenic and you're getting your rice from the southern United States, then soaking it with water the night before will lessen that. Or if you want to cook it with a lot more water and then drain it, you can cut the arsenic levels way down. That's the only problem with rice is arsenic, and California rice has less, but
Organic.
And organic rice has somewhat less.
Right. So I would say choose the best rice you can, cook it the best you can, and for sure don't worry. So for making your cubed bread, so what I always do is I find that 4 slices of bread basically makes about 2 cups of cubed bread. So I'll just toast it, lightly toast it, and then cut it into cubes, about that size. Doesn't have to be any precise amount. So that's it. You can see it's not difficult or lengthy. And then I'll add in a tablespoon of parsley flakes. Okay.
One of the reasons she keeps the recipe simple is that makes it possible to cook for 100 people.
No, I actually really believe in it. Now, one thing that's interesting about this recipe is you can utilize it as we are tonight with a cashew gravy. The other way that it can be done is you can use it to stuff peppers and put a tomato sauce on it.
And that's really nice if you make this and then stuff it into peppers to bake it and put a tomato sauce on it. It's really festive. But we didn't know if we could find that many red peppers.
Actually, it's also true that it is, I love it with a cashew gravy. You know, it's kind of in the comfort food category. So to make the liquid part to add into this, it's really simple. It's just 1/4 cup of cashews. And I always rinse them.
The reason you rinse them is because cashews are related to poison ivy. And people that pick cashews have to dress up in gowns and gloves. And so if you rinse it a little bit, if you're very allergic to poison ivy, that'll cut down the allergy. I can pull poison ivy with my bare hands and never get it, so I don't rinse my cashews.
So we have 1/4 cup of cashews, 1 cup of water, and then 2 tablespoons of tamari. And some salt and some sage, and we're done. So it calls for 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And a teaspoon of sage. And that's it. So I don't know how many minutes that took start to finish, but you can see, although it takes a little time to chop your vegetables, it's not lengthy. Do you want to do the honors?
Yeah, here, you walk over there and answer questions.
You know, one thing that's true about Vitamixes is that they're all unique. And anytime you're working with cashews, if you have a powerful blender, you don't have to pre-soak them. But what's really wonderful, if you don't have a powerful blender, if you just soak them for a while, they will make a nice creamy sauce.
Pour it in?
Yep, pour it in.
I can do that.
So then all you have to do, I will, is put your parchment paper in your pan. Yeah, I'll do 2 of them.
This is the hardest part. You don't have to use parchment paper, but it doesn't stick that way. You could grease your pan, but you'll see why during the lecture why you don't grease your pan. And parchment paper works fine. That was easy, wasn't it? especially since someone did all the chopping. It was really nice. And then you just spread that around a bit.
Just need a fork. So it works well to kind of press it down and kind of firm it up a little bit on the top. And you can do this so many ways. I've even made it like in bread pans or in like in a traditional longer loaf pan. That works nicely too, and you can slice it. So you can do a lot of things with this recipe. And it doesn't have to have a gravy, but life is always better with gravies. Okay, so you bake it at 350 covered, and then for the last 20 minutes you just pull the cover off. So are we going to put this in the oven? Yeah. We thought since we were here we might as well stick it in the oven.
So while she's doing that, I'm going to turn the lights off for a moment and clear up, and we'll bring out your food and put that in. I wanted to walk you through the cashew gravy. I'm not demonstrating it tonight, but I wanted to explain it carefully so you knew exactly what it was. So with the cashew gravy, again, you have the half a cup of rinsed raw cashews. You have 2 2/3 cup water. You have the cornstarch, and I say, whenever I buy corn or soy, it's always really important to make sure it's non-GMO, because corn and soy we need to be particularly careful about. Yes?
Can you do the arrowroot instead?
Yes, you can. I've used it, either one. So you have your cornstarch, and your onion powder, and your tamari, and you blend that, and then just pour it in a pan and stir it, and it's
In a saucepan.
in a saucepan, and
Heat it and stir.
heat and stir, and it thickens up really nicely. Yeah, it's actually it doesn't. I have used other things that tend to stick more prone. They're more sticky than this. When I cooked it this afternoon, I made a lot of gravy, and it didn't even think about sticking. So that was kind of fun to see. It's interesting how you'll use different recipes and each have kind of their own personality. So does anyone have any questions about the gravy? Yes?
Will it keep in the refrigerator for several days after you make it?
That's a really good question. I would assume so. Yeah, I would imagine. Yeah, yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
Using it to keep the gravy warm.
Is the tamari better than like a low sodium soy sauce?
Right. So my understanding of we have the Bragg's liquid aminos, we have traditional soy sauce, and we have tamari. As it was explained to me, each one of these have a soybean base, but the tamari has a healthier process. That's how it was explained to me. Do you have any words of wisdom on that?
I like the flavor better.
It's also gluten-free.
What's that?
It's also gluten-free.
Gluten-free, right. So I always watch for that, and it's non-GMO.